بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. This is the first talk of the weekend, which will be today, tomorrow, and Sunday, inshallah. And tonight, inshallah, we'll go through some common mistakes made during Ramadan. Some common mistakes made during the month of Ramadan. And they're not in any particular order. It's not restricted to a certain, anything connected to the fast on Ramadan we're going to discuss. And again, it's not in a specific order. طيب. We'll try to keep it practical so that it's not just information, but that it's relatable so that we understand. We don't make the inshallah, Allahumma balaghna Ramadan. Ask Allah to allow us to reach Ramadan and benefit from it. I mean, but we want to make sure we don't make the same mistakes over and over, year in and year out. So the point of mentioning these mistakes are so that we don't make these same mistakes again, inshallah. Or if we know people who are making a mistake, because some things we might not know is a mistake, right? So if we know something and then someone else, they don't know, we can inform them, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. Again, these are not in a specific order. طيب. The first thing, تعجيل السحور. تعجيل السحور. وهذا فيه تفريط في أجر كثير لأن السنة في ذلك أن يؤخر المسلم سحوره. The first common mistake is eating suhoor too early. Eating the suhoor, the pre-dawn meal, to eat it too early. So let's say, for example, if the adhan of Fajr is 5 o'clock a.m. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to eat as close to the adhan as possible. So we want to eat as close to 5 o'clock as possible without eating after 5 o'clock, of course. So the first mistake is eating, for example, a person is up late, so it's 2 in the morning. So they say, I'm gonna just eat my suhoor now. But you can do. It's not that the suhoor is not valid, but that's not the closest thing to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And what we want to do, what we should be trying to do, is be as close to the sunnah of the Messenger ﷺ as possible. As close as possible. And if a person is up, for example, they're at work, they fall asleep, they can't control themselves, and then they say, I'm going to eat now because I don't think I'm going to be able to get back up, then that's another situation. But just to make it the norm, intentionally, with the ability, and you have the ability to delay the suhoor, right? Then this is a mistake. Why is it a mistake, though, is the question. Why is eating the suhoor early a mistake? It's not the way the Messenger ﷺ. He taught us the opposite, right? He taught us to delay the suhoor, right? So the hadith that speaks about that says it was approximately the time span between the adhan of Fajr and the Iqamah, and the time that they stood to pray, the time it took you to read 50 verses from the Quran, 50 ayat, right? Which is not a very long time. Therefore, the closer to the time, the better. Which means, in general, most people, we don't live in a place where we hear the adhan 5 times a day, right? So most of us are going to be going by either a prayer schedule or the application on the phone or something like that, realistically. So if the application says, and the apps are not really accurate like that anyway, we know that, which is another issue. Everybody, if it's 5 people in here, the apps, 5 different phones could go off at 5 different times for the same prayer. So that might be something to take in consideration. Is my time on my phone the proper time? Unless you're in the masjid where the mu'adhin is responsible. The mu'adhin, when you're in the masjid praying jama'ah, the mu'adhin is responsible for being the timekeeper, let's say. Right? If that's the case, then you go with the mu'adhin. Okay? But if a person is in their home, and they're going to eat suhoor until the adhan is called, then of course we want to delay the suhoor as close as possible to the time, to 5 o'clock, without putting ourselves in danger of eating past the time. So what would that mean? What would that look like? What would be let's say, a safe time to stop eating? If the adhan is at 5, it's safe to stop when?
57:58, somebody still want to brush your teeth. Brush them off.
57:58? Mumkin. Now, your phone has the adhan at 5. Because this we got to keep in mind. And we don't have to go over, we just got to keep in mind that when we're in our house, we're not dependent on the mu'adhin. So let's say if your phone says 5 o'clock, right? And generally, the apps are not all the same. So that means his could say 4:58, right? And his could say 56. And his could say 5:02, right? So I'm saying the safe thing to do is what? Maybe 5 minutes before whatever your phone says, just to be safe, right? Maybe 6 minutes, maybe 10, right? Safe, clear, right? Now, if a person goes with on their phone, okay. But if you come to find out that what was on your phone that day was incorrect, if you find out later, you don't have to live life thinking was it correct or not. But if something happens and comes up, you find out later that time was incorrect, then that's a day that has to be made up. It's a day that has to be made up. All right? That's why I'm saying safe.
No apps.
Safe.
Take a picture of that.
Even that's taken from most of the things are taken. Generally, if you're not in the masjid with the person called the mu'adhin calling the adhan, then the person is going to be using the sheet. Most people really don't use sheets. Some people still use the prayer calendars or the application. Point being that the safest thing to do is to follow them, and also following the sunnah is to be as close to the adhan time as possible without going over the time of the adhan. Tayyib. The next one, we find that another mistake is not making the intention before fasting. A person not making their intention before fasting. Now the question is, when is the last point, or when is the last time that a person can make their intention to fast? So for example, today is Friday. If we're fasting Saturday, when can I start to make my intention to fast on Saturday? The earliest, after Maghrib. The earliest I can make my intention to fast tomorrow is after Maghrib. Okay? The latest I can make my intention to fast for Saturday will be what? Suhoor? Before the adhan. Before the adhan of Fajr. Right? So that means generally we will have from tonight, 7:50, 7:55, all the way all night until the adhan of Fajr. Right? To make the intention. All of that is considered the night. So a person may not make the intention throughout the night. They don't make it after Maghrib, not after Isha, not all night. They don't make the intention. Right? And this is a mistake, as the Messenger ﷺ said in the hadith, "Man lam yubayyit as-siyam min al-layl fala siyam lahu." That Imam An-Nasa'i, rahimahullah, he recorded in his sunan, the person who does not make their intention at night, then they have no siyam. They have no fast for that day. And there is another narration recorded by Ad-Daraqutni wal-Bayhaqi, and Imam Al-Albani, rahimahullah, said it was authentic, that the Messenger ﷺ said, "Man lam yubayyit as-siyam qabla tulu' al-fajr fala siyam lahu." Whoever doesn't make their intention before tulu' al-fajr, tulu' al-fajr is the rising, or I say the time of Fajr. Let's not say the rise, let's say the time of Fajr. Whoever doesn't make their intention before the time of Fajr, meaning the adhan, then they have no fast. Does that mean they don't have to fast that day, or they can eat? After that, huh? They still should fast. They still should withhold from everything else that the Muslim that is fasting is withholding from. Tayyib.
You gotta pick it up.
Yes, you have to make it up.
Intention.
Yes, there is no deed done. There's no action or worship done without a niyyah. So let's just say if the adhan is at 5, what does it mean? It means if the adhan for Fajr is at 5 o'clock, I make my niyyah for that day at 5:03. Right? I make my niyyah to fast that day at 5:05, 5:10. What does that mean?
Say that again.
The adhan for Salat al-Fajr is at 5. That's when the fast begins. The fast begins at the adhan al-Fajr. I make my niyyah to fast that day at 5:10. What did I do?
You know the time they make the fast.
Hmm?
You know the time.
Of course, I went over the time, but what did I...
You didn't make the intention.
I didn't make my intention on time, okay? Huh?
You didn't make it before that.
I didn't make it before the adhan. Later, I missed something. Of course, I didn't make it during the night, but there's a problem, because that day I have to make up. But why do I have to make that day up? Everything that you said is right, but the reality of that is, I didn't make it before the adhan. I didn't make it at night. I made it after the time, which means there's a piece of that day that I did not have the intention to fast. There's a portion of the day, right? Huh?
If you make intention for Suhoor, that sufficiently saying that you prepared the fast.
Yeah, but I say I didn't have any intention. I didn't eat suhoor, right? The reality is when a person does that, that means there's a portion of that day they didn't fast. They mean they fasted part of the day. They missed 10 minutes of the day, right? They missed 30 minutes of that day. Maybe they were asleep. They woke up, they were asleep, they woke up, and they didn't make their intention the night before. They didn't eat suhoor. They didn't plan on eating suhoor. Some people, they feel like, they say, no, when I eat suhoor, I get hungry, right? Or whatever the case may be. Or they're trying to lose weight, whatever they got an idea. They say, we don't really have, if I eat suhoor, if I don't eat suhoor, is my fast still valid? Yeah, the fast is still valid. You lose reward, but the fast is still valid. So a person says, well, you know, today, I'm not going to have suhoor. I don't plan on having suhoor at all tomorrow. So they're not getting up for suhoor. Or they maybe eat before Ramadan. It's just a question. So now they have, okay, I don't have to eat suhoor every day. So we know if you intend to eat suhoor, then that's part of the intention to fast. All right, let's exclude all of that. Point being, if a person doesn't, there's a portion of that day that they didn't fast. So that means that that day is not complete. It's not a complete day of fasting. Whether it's 10 minutes, a half hour, 3 hours, the intention to fast has to be for the entire day. The entire day. Now, some ulama may differ on, do you have to make the intention for every day? Those scholars that say they do, they say every day in Ramadan is a separate act of worship. Every day is an individual day, so every individual day needs its own individual intention. Right? Some say, okay, you can make it at the beginning. Now it's an argument. It's a debate, not an argument. It's a debate. Al-ahwat. The safe thing. Safe. When I say safe, I don't necessarily mean 100% the strongest opinion. Safe. Safely, safe thing, if you made your intention to fast for every single day, there's no argument if the fast is correct or not. But there is a difference of opinion if a person just made one intention at the beginning of Ramadan and then fasted their whole Ramadan on that. Is that accepted? Some say yes, some say no. That yes-no area is a gray area, right? Why enter the gray area? Especially if you're not a person who's able to look at the hadith, the proof, and really look and get deep detail in it to come up with your own final conclusion, right? Why enter the gray area? And the safe thing to do is you make your intention every night. You make your intention every night before you fast. On top of that, as it says with aqs min dhalik, that the intention does not have to be said with the tongue. We don't have to stand in the mirror, for example. We don't have to say it. We don't have to do this. I intend to fast tomorrow, Ramadan. Right? The intention is in the heart. So it doesn't necessitate that it has to be said with the tongue. As Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, وَتَكَلَّمْ بِالنِّيَّةِ لَيْسَ وَاجِبًا بِإِجْمَعِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. He said, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, to speak, to verbalize the intention is not something that is obligatory. And this is, as he said, بِإِجْمَعِ, with consensus of the Muslims. It's not something that we have to do for any action, that we have to worship. The intention is not on the tongue, except with the exception, as the ulama explained, of the ihram, getting in ihram. But generally, salah, right? We don't have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I intend to go pray salat al-dhuhr. Or we don't have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I intend to make wudu, and say it. The intention is in the heart. طيب. The next one. And this is something that we have to be careful. تعمد الشرب والأثناء أذان الفجر. Intentionally drinking or eating during the adhan of fajr. During the adhan of fajr. Because there's a hadith. The issue is, if you're drinking something, if I have this in my hand, and I'm drinking the water for suhoor, and the adhan goes off, right, and it's in my hand, right? Can I drink or do I have to put it down? The adhan goes off, right, for fajr. Huh? Drink it? All right. What's the safest thing to do? All right, safest thing to do is put it down. But there's a text, hadith, that allows you to drink what's in your hand. Now, and Allah knows, not allowed to grab something off the table. You hear the adhan and you grab off the table. If it's not in your hand, then it doesn't fall in line with the text of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Right? Some people may say, well, I know I can drink it, but I'm good. I did enough, and they put it down. Right? But if a person has it in their hand and the adhan goes off and they drink it, you can't say your fast is broken. No, it's a text. It's a text for that action. But that doesn't mean, just stand around. It's in my hand, so just drag it out, right? Because it was in my hand. Finish what's in your hand and continue. He says, خاصة إذا كان المؤذن دقيقا في توقيته للأذان. Especially if a person is in the masjid and we're depending on the mu'adhin during Ramadan. If you're in the place where they're praying jama'ah, we're waiting for the mu'adhin to call the adhan, right? For suhoor. Maybe the people, they stay in the night in the masjid, they get i'tikaf. So they're eating right before fajr, right? So brothers and sisters, they sitting around, they eating and drinking. And if the mu'adhin is going to call the adhan, then what? If you have something in your hand, is one thing. It doesn't mean that if it's on the spread, you can go grab it up real quick once he starts calling the adhan. That's dangerous, because now you're playing with breaking the day or breaking your fast for a sip of water. That's not going to, take you over the top for the rest of the day, really. That doesn't mean if it's in your hand you can't drink, but in reality, why would you go grab something? Knowing that it's not in your hand, knowing you don't fit the description at that point for that hadith. The hadith is for the one that's in their hand, not for the one, well, let me run downstairs real quick. I hear the adhan going off, but I'm going to run downstairs real quick and I can drink a water in 1 minute. That's not the understanding of the hadith. He brings a statement here of Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah. It says, Al-adhan li salat al-fajr imma an yakun ba'da tul al-fajr aw qablahu. The adhan for fajr is either before the rising of the sun or after. Tayyib, either before waqt al-fajr, before the time of fajr, or at the time of fajr. Two adhans. He says, فَإِنْ كَانَ بَعْدَ طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ فَإِنَّهُ يَجِبُ عَلَى الْإِنسَانِ أَنْ يَمْسِكَ بِمُجَرَّدِ سِمَاعِ الْأَذَانِ. If it is at the time of If it is at the time of, or before Fajr, if it's before Fajr, then of course a person can continue eating, right? Due to the hadith that there were two people calling the adhan, as the Prophet ﷺ said. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Inna Bilalan yu'adhinu bil-layl, fakulu washrabu hatta tasma'u adhan ibn Maktum." He said that Bilal, radiallahu anhu, he calls the adhan, which is before Fajr. The adhan in the middle of the night, let's just say, for lack of better words, right? Bilal, radiallahu anhu, he called the adhan in the middle of the night. What's the benefit in calling the adhan for Fajr in the middle of the night? Huh? Outside of Ramadan. Because it wasn't just during Ramadan that he was calling the adhan. Huh? He didn't just call, huh?
Night prayer,
The night prayer? What about it?
for people to get up and pray at night.
Jade. For the people who are sleeping, they can get up and pray at night. And pray the night prayer. And for the people who are already up praying, because that adhan means Fajr is getting close. It's not time for Fajr, but Fajr is getting close. So the people who are asleep, if they want to get up and pray Tahajjud, they can get up and pray Tahajjud. And the people who are up praying Tahajjud, they know they might want to lay down and get a rest before Fajr, right? So Bilal radiallahu anhu will call the first adhan. He will call the first adhan. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Eat and drink until you hear the adhan of Ibn Maktum," which is the second adhan, which means now is time to stop. And this is important because some people think some people think that we stop eating suhoor. They think the fast begins with the time of sunrise on the news. You know, the news, it says sunrise, it might be like 7:40, 7:23 or something like that. 7:40, yeah, it'll be sometimes a long time after, right? It'll be a long time, might be an hour, more than an hour or two sometimes, an hour and a half. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Eat and drink until hatta tasma'u," until you hear the adhan of Ibn Maktum. At the second adhan, which is the adhan for the time of Salatul Fajr now, that's when we have to stop eating. طيب. He says, and then he says, فَإِنَّهُ لَا يُؤَذِّنْ حَتَّى يَطْلَعَ الْفَجْرِ. He said, Ibn Maktum, he doesn't call the adhan until the time of Fajr. So this is the time we have to eat up until the adhan. So if a person knows this, then we should all try to be cautious, not to play with the suhoor. Don't play with it and then end up have to make a day up for a sip of whatever we're eating or drinking. طيب. Another mistake, and we're not mentioning mistakes to point at people. We're mentioning them so hopefully we don't fall into them. طيب. It says, جاهل البعض بفضل شهر رمضان فيستقبلونه كغيره من أشهر السنة وهذا خطأ. He said, people not knowing, not having knowledge of the benefits and virtues of the month of Ramadan. This is a big mistake. Not knowing the virtue and the benefit of the month of Ramadan. So therefore, what do people do when Ramadan comes, the time of Ramadan? They treat it like any other month. Nothing changes, it's the same, no increase in worship. They don't feel any different. There's no urgency there, right? From not knowing the benefit, the virtue, and the benefits of Ramadan. He said this is a mistake, as the Messenger ﷺ said, showing the importance of Ramadan. قال عليه الصلاة والسلام إذا جاء رمضان فتحت أبواب الجنة وغلقت أبواب النار وصفدت الشياطين. He says sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when Ramadan comes, that the doors of paradise are opened. And this is when Ramadan comes, as he says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not any other month. There's no other month that falls under this hadith. When Ramadan comes, the doors of paradise are opened. And the gates, the doors to the hellfire are closed. And the shayateen, the devils are chained. The devils are shackled down. The devils are shackled down. The hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim. So the approach the approach of the month of Ramadan as if it's like the other 11 months is a mistake in itself. To look at it as if it's no different from the rest of the months on the Islamic calendar, right? On the Islamic calendar, because there are other virtuous months. There are other months with tons of benefit on the Islamic calendar. That's the importance of knowing the Islamic calendar. The months and days, as we spoke about the other day, days of fasting during the different months, there are many, many benefits in other months on the Islamic calendar. But Ramadan is special. Ramadan is special. And not knowing, not having knowledge of, or the significance of Ramadan, that in itself is a mistake. That in itself is a mistake, as we lose the reward of benefiting from the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, that the gates of the paradise, the doors of the paradise are open. Tayyib. The next one. When we find out that Ramadan has began, which usually we find out around like Dhuhr or something like that, right? Usually if Ramadan is the next day, we usually find out around Dhuhr. But even before that, even before the day before, generally, even right now, we know already, in approximately 2 weeks or so, less than 2 weeks, Ramadan is going to begin, right? Ramadan is starting, it's coming soon. So right now we're prepping. So once Ramadan has entered, right, from what is one of the first acts of worship that the Muslims do when Ramadan comes? Before we fast. Before we even fast, we pray Tarawih. Before we even do we don't even fast one day and we already praying Tarawih, night prayer, right? So it says a mistake is that a person knows, okay, tomorrow is Ramadan. If tomorrow is Ramadan, not tomorrow is Ramadan. Tomorrow what? We're fasting. Tomorrow we're fasting means tonight at Maghrib is Ramadan. If we're fasting tomorrow, the first day, that means tonight is the first night of Ramadan, which means the sunnah is to pray Tarawih in Jama'ah with the Muslims. Tarawih, not Tawari. But sometimes you gotta say Tawari, because some people, if you say Tarawih, they might not know, they're used to saying it one way, but correctly, it's Tarawih. Khalas. He says, this in itself, the fact that the moon has been sighted, and we know that we're starting to fast tomorrow, we should be trying to pray Tarawih that night. And like right now, we know Ramadan is approximately the 5th, the 6th, something like that. We should be planning our lives to be able to pray Tarawih that first night. From now. We can't wake up and act like we didn't know Ramadan was coming 2 weeks ago. Then we say, man, I wish I could get off. I wish I had something set up. We got time. We got more than 2 weeks to set something up. If you can't set it up, alhamdulillah. But to go on as if Ramadan didn't come, as if Tarawih is not something specific to Ramadan, praying in Jama'ah like this is another mistake. As the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to pray Tarawih in Jama'ah with the Muslims on that first night. And that first night is usually a crowded night, as many people like to listen to Surah Al-Baqarah, the recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah. Tayyib. It says, another common mistake is, it says, من ترك الشارب أو الآكل في النهار ناسيا يأكل ويشرب حتى يفرغ من حاجته. This is something that we, on both sides, the one giving advice and the one taking advice. Because we so sensitive now. People scared to advise people because everybody's sensitive. Nobody wants to be, as we say, checked. And it's not really a check, it's helping your brother. You're supposed to want for your brother, for your sister, what you want for yourself. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Nobody wants to be told what to do. And this is an issue. If we're not able to advise each other, where is the commanding the good and forbidding the evil going to come from? Right? If you're wrong, you're wrong. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. You've been the Adam, a human. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, Kullu bani Adam khata. All of mankind make mistakes. So at times we're going to be wrong. We make mistakes. Nobody's free from making a mistake. The issue here is that you see another Muslim during the month of Ramadan in the daytime eating or drinking. And you know that they're fasting. They're fasting, right? You turn around and they're drinking the water. Why? Why are they drinking the water? They forgot. They forgot. See, we got to put the best spin on it. We trying to figure out why is he drinking the water. They forgot. They had something in their pocket, right? I've been talking to people. You be talking to them, having a conversation. They pull out a stick of gum. Oh man, I'm fasting. Right? If they remember themselves. But what if they don't remember? Do we say something, right? Right. Some people don't want to say anything. They let them finish. They say, you fasting out? You let them eat a whole donut or whatever they're eating. And then when they're done, you fasting? Right? Scared. If I say something, he might not take it. That's a munkar. Even though they forgot, it's not intentional. They're not intentionally doing, because breaking fast without a valid excuse in the month of Ramadan is from the major sins. From the major sins is to break the fast without a valid excuse, right? So the brother or the sister, they forgot. And they're eating or they're drinking during the daytime. So what do? Leave them to keep eating and drinking? No, it's a munkar. Either way, it's something that is prohibited. It's something that is prohibited. And when we see something prohibited, we're supposed to, as the Prophet ﷺ said, change it to the best of our abilities. Change it to the best of our abilities. A statement of Shaykh bin Baz, rahimahullah, he says, مَنْ رَأَى مُسْلِمًا يَشْرَبْ فِي نَهَارِ رَمَضَانَ أَوْ يَأْكُلُ, or taking anything else that might break the fast, he says, وَجَبَ الْإِنْكَارَ عَلَيْهِ. He said, if you see somebody eating or drinking during the daytime during Ramadan, or anything else that'll break the fast, doing anything else that'll break the fast, obligatory to say something. That don't mean you gotta scream at them. That don't mean you gotta disrespect them. That don't mean you gotta call them a name, right? They forgot. The best thought that you can have for your brother or sister is that they must have forgotten we were fasting. Because you don't forget doesn't mean nobody forgets, right? Because you don't forget. If that was the case, the Prophet ﷺ, he wouldn't have said in the hadith that whoever eats or drinks and they forget forgetfully, then they continue, they complete their fast. People forget. So when we see a person that we say something that we don't leave them like that, he says, إِذْهَارُ ذَلِكَ فِي النَّهَارِ صَوْمٌ مُنْكَرٌ وَلَوْ كَانَ صَاحِبُهُ مَعْذُورٌ فِي نَفْسِ الْأَمْرِ. He said, why? Because eating during the day time of Ramadan is an evil act. It's evil. It's a sin. Doesn't mean that the person who did it forgetfully is sinful. But the act itself, that by itself is enough to be able to say something. That don't mean we got to scream at people and all that kind of stuff, but it says even if the person who did eat or drink by accident, they're excused. But that doesn't mean because they're excused we can't say anything to remind them. Because the person generally, if they forgot and they really eat something in totality, they're going to feel bad. They're going to feel like I didn't do my whole fast today. Even though the fast is valid if you forgot. It's a feeling. I forgot. I drank a whole water like that, forgot I was fasting. Right? In a situation like that, the Prophet ﷺ said that the person's fast is valid and they keep fasting, but next thing they're going to do is look at you or me and say, why you saying that? You let me sit there and drink a whole water? Then what we say? I thought you, I don't know. I thought you wasn't I thought you wasn't fasting today, right? I don't know. No, you say something. You fasting now? You know we fasting, right? Put the best thought for our brothers or sisters. Tayyib. He mentions another one here, and it's specific to the sisters, but not really specific to the sisters. That is children in general. Preventing children from fasting, right? When in reality they may be of age that it may be obligatory for them to fast. And if it's not obligatory for them to fast at that age, at the least the encouragement for the child who's able to handle it, the encouragement has to start. But not to leave a person or a child older, close to puberty. The child that is close to puberty should be fasting already. At puberty, at the latest, Islamically, at the latest, the ulama say, at the latest, they reach the age of 15, they're valid, they're responsible. But let's just say a child is 12. Big 12-year-old boy, they bigger than we were. As big as they are now, how old is it?
13.
Like you said, I thought it was like 16, right? Like, well, just, right? As big as they are, at that age, 12, 13, they should be fasting. Not that it's not that if they break it, it's a sin, but the encouragement should be early. You can't wait 15 years old, all right, you gotta, start praying. You gotta cover. You need to start fasting. No, the encouragement is to start early. Even if they're not held responsible, they're not a sin if they break it. It's not obligatory on them yet. We got to keep that in mind too. When it's not obligatory on them and they fall short, we got to, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Number one, it's not obligatory on them. Number two, they're in the learning process. So he said, preventing the young girl with the excuse that they still young, they have time. They're still young, they have time. No, if they reach the age of puberty, right? Which could be some kids, females, they reach puberty early, right? A girl could reach puberty, have her menses at 11, or 12, or younger, or 13. That means at that point they reach puberty, it's obligatory to fast. Does that mean that they're gonna be perfect in fasting? Does that mean that they're not gonna make a mistake? It doesn't mean that. But that also doesn't mean that they can just sit back and they don't have to fast, right? Tayyib. He says, and this one was kind of mentioned already, but here the hadith is mentioned, that for the one, and it is mentioned again for the fact that a person has doubt. A person doubts their fast. That a person who eats or drinks forgetfully. They forgot and they ate something or they drank some water. And then they turn around after that and they have doubt for the rest of the day in their fast. Now this is a mistake. Why is this a mistake? Because we have clear text from the Prophet ﷺ, clear hadith. And when we have clear text, we should be comfortable. We should be at ease. I'm fine. Okay, I did forget, and Allah knows I forgot, and I drank the water, I ate something, I forgot. Alhamdulillah, the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, and that's why I mentioned the hadith, that the Messenger ﷺ said, إِذَا نَسِيَ أَحْدُكُمْ فَأَكَلَ أَوْ شَرِبَ فَلْيُتِمْ صَوْمَهُ فَإِنَّمَا أَطْعَمَهُ اللَّهُ وَسَقَاهُ. The hadith is related by Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. He said that if one of you forgets and he eats or he drinks, then he should or she should complete her fast, because it was Allah that fed them or gave them that drink. So to walk around after you generally forgot, to walk around all day in doubt and count, I'm had to make it, that's a mistake. You should be at ease with the statement of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. Tayyib. Tayyib. The next one may be the most important, if not one of the most important. Possibly the most important. And Allah a'lam. Jahl ba'd al-nas bimufsadat. Though not knowing, a mistake in itself is for people, a person, not to know what breaks the fast. That's a problem in itself. That's a khata. That a person goes into the month of Ramadan and they haven't done any of their own research. They don't know what breaks my fast. Just eating and drinking only. Because you have some people, which, I mean, it's the reality. Men, women, khimar, no khimar, brothers with beards, brothers without beards, sisters with whatever they got on, khimar, jilbab, whatever you got on. Inside Ramadan, outside Ramadan, they cursing like they on the street. Cursing like they on the corner, right? Foul, mouth is just foul, out of pocket. So then when Ramadan comes, that's the norm for them. So it's hard for them to control their mouth. They don't know how to control their tongues. It's difficult. So now when they talk like that during Ramadan, they think that they broke their fast. Right? I heard this a lot of times. They say, I cursed, I broke my fast. So now they just go and they eat and they just go on about life. I gotta make the day up because I broke my fast, right? So not knowing what breaks the fast, yes, it removes reward from the fast. It doesn't break the fast in totality that makes a person have to make up a day. So it doesn't mean that it's okay to talk like that. But does it break the fast? It doesn't break the fast. Does it remove reward from the fast? It does remove reward from the fast. But this is just one example of not knowing what are the things that would make my fast invalid. And it's not just food and drink. There are other things that could break the fast, or things that could just take away from the reward, right? And we went through those on in the class on Wednesday. We already finished that chapter, but one of the other things is being intimate with one's spouse in the daytime. Sex with your wife or with the husband in the daytime breaks the fast, and a person has to make it up. They break the fast, they have to make the day up, and if it's sex, then they have to pay a penalty. There's a penalty for that along with that. There's a penalty along with breaking the fast. So not knowing the things that break the fast, or not knowing the things that take away from the reward of the fast, that in itself is a mistake for the Muslim to enter into this month that we only get once a year. We're not guaranteed to get another one. We don't know. We say it every year. There are people who were here last Ramadan and they're not here this Ramadan. And it could be us because we haven't made it yet. None of us sitting here are guaranteed that we're going to make it to this Ramadan coming. Allahumma balagha Ramadan. I mean, but the reality is to go into that month that the time is tight. Every day is its own act of worship. So we got to try to do every day as best as we can. We don't get that first day back. So when we start out slow, when we don't really get to read the first couple days, when we don't get to pray, we don't get those days back. Those days we can't get back. We can't get back those days of Tarawih when I just don't feel like going tonight. You know, such and such is coming on. I'm gonna watch whatever I'm gonna watch. Because I think last year, the finals was on, I think, if I'm not with the playoffs, right? Allahumma stan. We gotta have our priorities right. Right? Finals is better than Tarawih. Laylatul Qadr. 1,000 months of worship in one night. Allah said in the Quran, one night of worship worth 1,000 months of worship. Right? But the finals on. So now we gotta make a decision. And Allah give us the strength to choose what is best for us. I mean, which is following the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, or the shaitan might come to us and say, you know what, I'm gonna pray in the house tonight. Right? I'm gonna pray Tarawih in the house tonight. Right? Can you pray Tarawih in the house? Can you pray in the house? You can pray in the house. You can pray in the house. But what's the reality of me praying in the house? What's the reality of me praying and reading Quran and hearing the book of Allah in the house? What's the reality of me? Am I realistically going to pray 11 rak'ah like I would if I went and prayed with the Muslims in Jama'ah? Probably not. You just got to be real. We got to be real. I know if I sit here, I'm going to pray here. I might what, squeeze a couple in at halftime? Allah understand. Allah forgive us, man, but we gotta put priorities first. We only get Ramadan as 1 month. One, that we might not get another one. Realistic, especially the city we live in. The number of deaths, the number of Muslims dying that we all know about. We might not get another one. So we have to make sound decisions. Tayyib. He says, not having knowledge of those things that break the fast, right? Especially waiting until Ramadan comes and then trying to figure everything out, right? Ramadan is tomorrow. Are we fasting? Yeah. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can you? Confusion. Instead of preparing ahead of time, he says, وَهَذَا خَطَأ, this is a mistake, a great mistake. خَطَأ عظيم. من الواجب على الصائم أن يعرف قبيل رمضان وابتلاء ومفسدات الصيام. What is obligatory is that the fasting person should know the things before Ramadan. Before Ramadan, that will break the fast, that will make the fast invalid, or that would take away from the reward of the fast in order to stay away from those things. Not just to have a bunch of information piled up, but in order to stay away from those things. طيب. He says also, ghafla. He said being negligent of what, and this goes a little more to a community issue. There's a bunch of iftars on Ramadan. Everybody's having iftar, mashallah, feeding people. Tayyib. He says, being negligent about the dua for the person who fed you iftar. Meaning the person invites you to iftar, they feed you to break your fast, and what? Not making dua for those people. Not making dua for those people who fed you in order to break your fast. This is being negligent of the ad'iyah, the dua. And again, a lot of the du'as, these du'as, they're short. They're not long. Maybe 6 words. If we can't memorize 6 words, and we know stuff from 20 years ago by heart, but we can't memorize 6 words and we're in trouble. If we can't take time to memorize 6 words that include reward for ourselves and it's a dua for the person that we're talking to, then we have to look at ourselves. He says, being negligent of making the dua for the person who feeds you. They invite you to their house, they let you into their personal space, feed you. What do? Food was good. No dua, right? Or anything we say amongst us that shows that we appreciate it. We might say that, I appreciate that. It was real. That was a good look. I was hungry. But no dua, right? He says being negligent of making the dua for the person. He says, فَمِنَ السُنَّةِ إِذَا أَفْضَرَ الصَّائِمُ عِنْدَ قَوْمٍ أَنْ يَدْعُوَ لَهُمْ بِمَا دَعَى بِهِ الرَّسُولُ صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, from the sunnah is, when a person invites you and they feed you, is that you make dua for that person as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam did. And he mentions a few different du'as here. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 8 words. Allahumma barik lahum fima razaqtahum waghfir lahum warhamhum. Oh Allah, bless them and whatever you have provided for them. Forgive them and have mercy on them. Simple dua, right? Now we just get up and leave the house full, right? But that we make dua for the people who fed us. And he mentions a couple other a hadith where the person is making dua for the one who fed them. On the other hand, making dua when we break fast. Also making dua when it's time to break the fast. If we don't know the dua, then we should be trying to learn the dua, because all of them are pretty much real short. We're hungry, of course, everybody's hungry, we're fasting. But there are du'as that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to make at the time of breaking the fast. So we should be trying to be as close. We want our fast to be as close to the fast of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as possible. Which means what? He would make dua when he broke the fast. ذهب الظمأ وابتغت العروق وثبت الأجر إن شاء الله. There are plenty of them. There's more than one. But the point is that we use the time before Ramadan to learn these 6 or 7 words. 6 or 7 words, a lot of them. Maybe 10, maybe. Some of them are shorter than that. That we take the time before the month comes to learn these du'as. طيب. It says, another mistake is the idea or the thought that a man cannot be intimate with his wife not during the day, during the nights of Ramadan. It's not that a husband and wife cannot be intimate the whole month. That's not the case. Only during the daytime. Only during the daytime is the husband prevented from being intimate with his wife. And the wife is prohibited from being intimate with her husband during the day. After the fast is broken for that day, then they have all night until when? Till? When do the Adhan al-Fajr, they have until the Adhan al-Fajr. I'm not going there.
Now you want to be safe.
Allah Akbar. You want to be safe, you want to, right? Point being that, huh? Now the next question is, but if your question, I was about to say, then hold on.
It was on the same line.
All right, fuck it, go ahead.
You know, for the sisters that may not go to the masjid, for like Fajr prayer and stuff like that, and those are down acts that go off.
Mm-hmm.
Should they stick strictly to those, or should it be some leeway there?
I'll get right back to you.
Okay.
Because I'll get right back to you. I ain't gonna grind you up. You the shit. I ain't gonna grind the shit, but so you have until when? The fast begins when? At the Adhan al-Fajr. But of course you gotta use hikmah and not overstep the boundaries. If, for example, if a man and his wife, the spouse, they were intimate, and the Adhan al-Fajr is in 3 minutes, they don't have time to make a ghusl. There's no time to make a ghusl. Neither one of them. There's not going to be enough time to make a ghusl. According to the way they know how to make a ghusl. Because a ghusl has different types, there's different ways to make it. But let's just say they don't have time to make a ghusl. They don't have time to cleanse themselves, right? What's wrong, Shane? Huh? Yeah, but you know, everybody might not know the details on it. They don't have time to make a ghusl. The adhan is in 3 minutes. Are they going to fast or not? They're going to fast even though they didn't make ghusl. Huh? They can fast even though they didn't make ghusl. There's another misconception that a person thinks, for example, a woman, her menses went off, right? She was on her mens, so she couldn't fast. Her menses went off before the Adhan al-Fajr. The Adhan al-Fajr goes off. She didn't make a ghusl. Is she going to fast or she can't fast? You with me? Question clear? Sister was on her menses. Her mens goes off. Let's say the Adhan is at 5 o'clock. Her menses goes off. She checks. 4:50. She doesn't get till 4:55. Right? She doesn't have enough time to have a complete ghusl before the Adhan. Can she fast like that? Shake. Huh? I said shake, not too shake. Huh? The question is, does the ghusl from janaba prevent a person from fasting? Or the ghusl from the menses, does that prevent our sisters from fasting?
I would say so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No.
No?
You're posing it like it's a lie, but
I'm just asking the question.
yeah.
Yes.
if they intend prior to that, knowing that they missed one and intended, it should be accepted after they intention and make the ghusl after they know that the mints went off.
Can we?
Does the ghusl, her menses went off, she didn't make a ghusl, does that mean she cannot fast that day?
No.
That does not mean that. So that means, so she can fast? Huh? She can fast.
Make
Like,
up the day.
make up the day?
She can fast and make up the day if she
Nah.
needs to.
She doesn't have to make up the day. Why? The fast, the women can't, the sisters can't fast on the menses based on what? The blood. Once the blood stops, she's able to fast, even though she didn't make ghusl yet. Once the blood stops, she can fast even though she hasn't made her ghusl. What can't she do until she makes her ghusl?
Right.
She can't pray. She can't pray. Just like the man, he wakes up, a boy could have reached puberty, he had a wet dream. Nocturnal emission, right? Nocturnal emission. He has a wet dream. So they wake up at the time, and it's time to, right? He got 5 minutes before the adhan. So at that point, you know he's reached puberty, right? They reach puberty at that point. So they have time to do what? Make their intention for obligatory fast. But they don't have time to do what? Make a ghusl, right? Can they fast like that? They can fast, but what they can't do is pray until they make the ghusl. Clear? طيب. And there are a lot of issues connected to that. طيب. We're going to stop there, inshallah, because the next brother is going to start. Any questions? Questions? All of these are for the fact of not, so that we stay away from them, not for the fact of criticizing people for doing them, or criticizing each other for doing them, but so that we ourselves try to stay away from them and try to make the best of our fast, inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. You all right? You usually do that. Why you